What are some memories of your mom and dad, Phoebe and Walt?
Openshaw?
Yes.
Well, I worked with Daddy at the drugstore quite a bit, and that's when I spent the most time with him. And he was just as grouchy at the drugstore as, but just pretend grouchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fun place to work, fun place to be around him, and everybody liked him so much. And Mother was the best cook in the world, and I could come home
Seamstress.
at any time, any day of the week, maybe not Saturday, but and say, "I'll cook dinner if you'll make me a new dress or a new skirt," and that would happen. So I could have it for the next day, and that's the kind of woman she was, that kind of person she was. It's the kind of person Daddy was too. Whatever you want, you could have if they had it, or could do it.
Where were you born?
In the upstairs bedroom of my grandmother's house.
What's her name?
Actually, I lied. I didn't mean to. But I didn't find out until recently that I was born in the blue room, which is now the kitchen of the restaurant.
Will you state your full name and your birth date?
Phoebe Sue Smith, October 15th, 1933. I hope.
Where was your grandma's house at?
Hang on.
On Robeson, but I don't know the address. F52, is it? I don't remember the address.
What is your earliest memory?
I don't know that. I remember this, but not as much as my mom remembered this story. That we, Toy and I don't think Kate, no, Kate, we were going to the store and walking down the canal where we lived, and Mom couldn't find us, and so finally she found us, and she said, "Where in the heck are you going?" "We're going to the store," Toy said. And Mom says, "To buy some candy," Toy said. And Mom said, "Well, you don't have any money." "Why didn't you give us any money?" And so then she dragged us home, and we didn't ever do that again. But we were in big trouble.
Did your family have any family traditions that you can remember?
How far back do you remember? Just Christmas stuff that we did on Christmas, and we always. Well, I didn't get to do it until I was in high school, and was working for Daddy. But I got to help deliver Christmas gifts to the people around his drugstore that we always delivered and gave Christmas presents to. We didn't, but the store did, and he would just give them things that he knew that they needed for prescriptions and stuff like that that he had been doing, they had been having for a long time, And so that's the earliest thing I can think of. We always had Christmas dinner together, and we spent a lot of time with Aunt Ruth on on certain days with their family. But nope, other than that, no, just regular everyday life.
Can you remember a story that your mother or father told you when you were young, maybe about a grandparent or something that they had done, something they went through?
I remember one story about that Mother and Daddy. I don't remember if they were married yet or not, but they there was having a big barn fire, and so everybody in town came over to look at it, she said, and they drove up and parked, and their car people started capturing chickens to take home because the chickens were just running wild, and so they took chickens home with them so they have Sunday dinner or something, whatever, I guess. And it was a big joke, so obviously took the chickens back the next day.
Is there a childhood game that you can remember you guys doing?
When we moved into 327 East Southern, that there was 9 chinaberry trees in the front yard, and it took up the whole yard. And it was during the war, and we would all get into a chinaberry tree and throw chinaberries at each other because we were having airplane fights. They were our airplanes, and that was, I mean, that was a tradition. And everybody that ever came over to our house wanted to, let's have a airplane fight. So.
What about when you guys were surfing on the canal?
We didn't really have surf. We went swimming in the canal, but we didn't have surfboards.
I thought you drove
We weren't rich.
a car while you pulled people along
Well,
the
we
canal.
pulled people. Yeah, that's right. We did do that, but that wasn't. We were doing naughty things when we were doing that. You weren't supposed to be in those canals, but we got stopped by the police a couple of times, and they had to. I never got to get on the board. I only got to. One time they let me drive, but not very often. But that was the only time, but not very long. But it was fun. We used to do that a lot. You're right. Play in the canal. Thank goodness for you knowing. My brain isn't working.
What were Sundays like when you were growing up?
We went to church most Sundays, and then we would come home. Mother would cook dinner. That was it. We lived so far from the church that I don't remember going back for other things like we do now. Other meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I remember about.
Well, sometimes you said you went with Uncle Thurl.
Well, most days I would ride to church with Staples because Mom would not be going because of a baby or something. But we went with Staples a lot to primary even, and on Tuesday for primary. And then Mutual, I would ride with Dick to church for Mutual nights, and we always went downtown Phoenix to go on the big church right there on the freeway. I don't know what kind of a church it is now, or if it's just a go and look at its place. A
How many-
museum.
Oh, go ahead.
I said maybe it's a museum. Who knows?
How many siblings do you have?
8. Well, there was always 9 of us, so I'm sure 8. So
What are your siblings' names?
Toy, Sue, Toy, Sue, Kay, Nick, Doc, Linda. I'm sure I mixed them up there somewhere. Linda, did I get Scott?
Jan.
Jan, Scott, Sydney, and Sam.
What were your siblings like? Were you close?
Well, we thought we were, but I'm sure other people probably wouldn't think so. We had our tussles and we had our fights and we had our arguments, but we had a lot of happy times. We played Cowboys and Indians outside in the back a lot, and we all even had a bar. So where the garage came out at the sides, there was a little like window hole thing, and that's where we served our drinks from. Of course, it was just water and Kool-Aid.
Who's your favorite sibling? Who'd you hang out with most?
I don't know that I have that, but it would probably be Nick. And he went on a lot of dates with me even. So, and all of my boyfriends liked him best. So, better than me even, which isn't hard, I'm sure.
Do you remember any trips or vacations?
One time, they took the oldest 4 of us, maybe it's the oldest 3 of us, and we went to Utah, and we were there about 3-4 days, not very much. And I don't remember why we went, but we did visit with Grandpa and a couple of, mostly him, and then saw a couple other people that were relatives, which I don't remember who it was. And it was a fun trip, fun thing to do, but Daddy had to get back to work. Anyhow, like I say, I don't remember the first reason why we went. It must have been for some reason, or because we didn't do that. I mean, our family didn't do that anyway. So, but as far as family vacations or anything, no, we didn't do that.
What special events took place in your neighborhoods while you were growing up?
Like I talked to Toy, she talked about rodeo days.
That's what
Rodeo days, but that was in my neighborhood. That was in the whole town, and we would get to dress up for rodeo on the school, during the school. And when we were going to high school, we got to dress all week. We got to wear Levi's to school. Girls had to wear dresses every day and skirts.
And you went to the rodeo parade sometimes?
And we went to the rodeo parades almost every year. When we got older, not when we were little. I don't remember ever going when I was a little kid. But we took the little kids when we went, and if they wanted to go. But
what was Phoenix like then?
Phoenix was a fun town, I thought, because it was little, and you could go to town and spend the whole day on Saturday, go to the movies in the morning early, and then go shopping in the afternoon. Of course, we never had any money to shop, but we went shopping, went looking.
Can you describe the people in your family, starting with Aunt Toy?
I always thought Toy was the most spoiled because she didn't have to do a lot of things because she couldn't. But I just decided she didn't want to.
Okay, now describe Nick.
Nick was my favorite, so there wasn't anything wrong with him. He and I were always good buddies. And he and his friends I could play with because they were boys. I didn't play girl stuff.
Describe Aunt Kay.
I don't know why we weren't better friends than we were. We just weren't. And she was more of a house person, and I was an outside person. Bikes and stuff like that for me.
How about Uncle Doc?
He was a little boy. He was a little kid.
Aunt Linda.
Same way. She was a little girl. We were good friends, but that's all.
How about Aunt Sydney?
Aunt Sydney was the baby, so I had to, and we still are that same way. To me, she's still the baby, even though Scott butted in.
And Scott?
Scott spent a lot of time with us after we were married and everything, and so he's really always been real close to me, except now they live way out in Tonopah and we never see him, so.
And Sam?
Sam I had never got to live with very much or be around as much as possible because we lived in San Diego, and that separated a lot of our family stuff.
What kind of household chores did you do as a kid?
Dishes and yard stuff mostly.
What was your favorite?
None, but probably outside stuff.
Tell us about a favorite birthday you had.
I don't know really that it's my favorite, but it was the first real birthday party I had. It was about 12 or 13, something. It might even been my 15th, I'm not sure. But it had to be younger than that because it was mostly about 12th probably. And my birthday being in October, it was fun. We could have kind of a Halloween party. And Mom made it real special. We had just built a fireplace, we had the fireplace in the backyard, and we cooked hamburgers and stuff on the outside. Never had done that before for a party, and it was real fun for me. So,
Do you have any favorite childhood activities that you guys did?
Plus, which on that birthday party, I got my first pair of boots,
Fancy.
Cowboy boots.
cowboy boots.
Not go-go boots.
They didn't. Nobody invented any go-go's by then.
Do you have any favorite childhood activities that you guys did? Just shooting the guns and
Shooting
playing
gun.
war?
Well, not really. Just being because I really wasn't a child when we were going down the canal banks.
Well, what about over at like Uncle Thurl's house?
Uncle Thurl's house was fun to go to always, but because they had swing sets and all that kind of stuff. But we had swing set too eventually. So,
What about your cousins over at Uncle Thurl's house?
but they
Who
were
was
all
your favorite
boys.
over there?
Dick, Stapley, and we went on dates with each other with his girlfriend and my boyfriend and stuff. We've done that a little bit, not very much, but some.
Can you remember something you did with Dick?
Not really. I can't. Movies and that kind of stuff. Nothing real fun.
What are the names of your grandparents that you remember?
I really don't remember much except Mammy was always called Mammy to me, and Grandpa was Grandpa's Openshaw. And I don't remember my mom's father at all, and of course I don't remember her mother because she was not around. But I don't.
Do you have any memories of doing something with Mammy? Any memory of Mammy?
Well, like I said, we would spend sometimes, let me think a minute, not very long after we were married, I was at Mom's house and Mammy was there, and I was doing some ironing for Mother, and she and Mammy came in and said, "Let me do that for you." And I did, but I mean, it was fun that she wanted to, but that's the only thing I ever remember her ever wanting to, or ever doing. And she was a good seamstress and a quilter, but I never learned to quilt.
Did you spend time at their house?
At Mammy's house? Yeah. I mean, she had that big porch, and it had a big swing on it, and we'd sit there and swing and play hide and seek every once in a while and go down in the cellar, but then we'd get in trouble because you didn't need to go down in the cellar. But cellar was spooky, fun. Canning jars and everything in it, that's how scary it was. And that's why we weren't supposed to be in it, because we would break the jars and stuff. So,
Can you tell us about your house that you lived in?
327 East Southern. It was just the house, and then had a nice front room. And then when we got a little bit older, they built on new bedrooms for the girls, and that was nice. And it was the first shower I ever got to take was in that house, because when we built the new bathroom for the girls, we put a shower in. They put a shower in, and Mom and Daddy always had a shower, but they wouldn't let us go in to it and take a shower.
Did you share a room?
Shared a room with the girls, with Toy and Kay, and we had 3 matching beds in there. 2 like this, and 1 like over here.
Is there any story about you sharing a room?
Not really.
Did you guys share clothes?
Nope.
Did you
I was
share-
always bigger. I was always tallest and bigger, and my clothes wouldn't fit them, and I didn't want to wear theirs. And I could have a new dress every day if I wanted.
Can you remember your phone number?
Broadway 61130. I hope. Is that right?
How did you meet PJ?
Well, I knew him from working at the drugstore a little bit, but he's an old man, and so and one day I had a date with 3 of my girlfriends, and we were all going to the movie that night. And then Daddy called. He had gone someplace with Pappy to he went to the horse races with Pappy, and he called and said, would I please stay until 9 o'clock because he was not going to get home. He wasn't going to get back until about that time. I had to stay till 9 o'clock because the girl that worked the counter was going to go home, and she had to go home. And so I had to stay at least until 7. And we were all going to the movies, and the show started before 7. And so I said, no, well, I can't, I guess so. But I was supposed to go out on this other thing, and so Pappy said, tell her I'll take her out to dinner. And so they came back to the store, and we went out to dinner.
And that was your first date?
Uh-huh. If you can call it that. We went to a place called Western, oh, what is the name of it? It was just a little restaurant by a motel somewhere on the west side of Phoenix.
Westward Ho?
Nope, it was Westward Village. And then when we went home, first time I had a petite,
I just had to restart it.
Oh,
and I think it was the first time I had a petite, what do you call this? Petite
filet.
filet.
When and where did you get married? What day?
22nd of July.
What year?
I don't remember. When was it?
57?
57? No,
No,
no. 53, wasn't it? Something like that.
because that was 54. Yeah. 53. Where'd you get married?
In the prison in Florence, Arizona.
In the prison?
Why don't you tell us the story, Mom, about your marriage?
I went. We went out to eat with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Pappy's sister and her husband, and we were eating. And Pappy had given me an engagement ring a couple of weeks before that, and we hadn't told my dad yet, and or my mother, and. Anyhow, so they were just sitting there talking, la, 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 la. But just prior to that, the day before, Pappy had, somebody had told him that he better tell Daddy, but at least show him the ring. And so we did. So we had just shown Daddy the ring the night before or something. I can't remember that part. But anyhow, so then while we were out with Pappy's sister, her husband, Bea and Dell, and they had gotten married in the prison. So anyhow, we were sitting there talking, and we were talking about that we had just shown Daddy that we were engaged. And I said, I don't know that they're going to let us get married. And Dell said, well, we can just go out and get married today. I said, don't be silly. I can't do that. But I didn't want a big wedding because then they'd make me have to have all those people staring at me. And so I said, So as they talked, it got to be later and later and later. And then about 11 o'clock, we were on our way to Florence, and we saw two inmates looking out their window saying, hey, man, what you doing out here? Tell them to turn on the air conditioning. It's hot in here. They didn't say air conditioning. They just said the air conditioning, the coolers. And so we went in and got married.
What were you doing? Were you babysitting?
I was supposed to be babysitting, but I was in Florence getting married. But then we went straight home to my house. Pappy went to his house. And
How long was it before you told your parents?
when they came home,
3 days?
no, at least 2.
What'd they say?
Sunday night. But actually, I don't know what Daddy said because he wasn't there when Mother was told. But they weren't happy. I don't recall what they said. I just put it out of my head because it was done. And I was happy as a lark, I thought. And so then, and Pappy had bought this house, so we had a place to live. But so when Mom and Daddy came home, is when I moved my stuff. But
Did you have a reception?
yes, over at Ruth's and Stapley's, and so they threw this great big party, happy as lark. We thought they were happy. We were stupid. We thought Pappy was Daddy was real happy, and he was because he really liked Pappy. Good horse races and all that kind of stuff. So.
Do you have a memory of Grandpa and Pappy?
Just a lot of them that they love to go fishing. They love to go to the horse races and stuff like that. And that's mostly my recollection of them when they were doing that. Whenever we had anything at their house, they spent a lot of time sitting and talking. So.
What are the names of your children? How many do you have?
9.
What are their names?
Dennis Glenn, Carrie Lynn, Toby Kay, Nikki Dell, Toby Kay, Tracy Ann, Andy Sue, and Jeffrey Owen, and Lainey Lee. Oh, and Sunny Ann.
Yep. Do you know their birth dates?
Yeah, right now, do I have to know that? Let's see. July 14th and 54.
Say Dennis is July 14th.
Dennis, July 14th, 54, isn't it?
56.
56.
No, 54.
54.
You're right, 54.
Carrie Lynn,
April.
13th,
56.
56. And Nikki Dell, February 11th, 58. And who's that? Toby Kay? Toby Kay, July 15th,
60.
50, what, 6, 7?
1960.
1960. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tracy B.
August
31. And I don't remember.
62.
62. I do remember that if I wasn't in front of a camera.
That's okay. You don't want me to help her.
Andy Sue. November. November 19th. I don't know.
1963.
63.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeffrey Owen.
November 8th.
November 8th, 2 years later, or 3 years later. Wow, many.
I think he's I don't know what year he's born actually. Laney's born in 69. December 26th, 1969. And Sonny's in 71, I think.
71.
May 30.
Wasn't it 73?
Oh my God. Can you?
What does PJ stand for?
Preston Joseph Smith, Jr.
So how did he get the name Pappy?
You know what? Because he would never, let's see, what was it? Oh. When he was a kid, when he was little, I don't remember right now. I will remember soon, but
But his dad had the same name, so they had to.
but he didn't have Pappy. He wasn't Pappy.
I know,
Grandpa wasn't
that's why
Pappy.
maybe the distinction was there.
Yeah, and it was something to do with his clothing. I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
how'd you come to live in California? Like, what?
They got a big job. He got a big paving job in California, and somebody that he knew was there, and they were from here, from Phoenix also, and so then they went to do that job, and then we just never came back. He liked it so much.
What was your address there?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember. 704 Cedar, El Cajon.
So he was in construction then?
Yes, he was. He's a paving contractor first, and then a little bit more stuff, whatever goes with paving. And he really liked it. And then we had an opportunity. He had an opportunity to move back to Phoenix, so we did.
Can you name some places you visited that have been fun?
Well, we went to Australia once, and that was, the trip over was more exciting than while we were in Australia because they were so much like us. It was just like being home. And, but it was fun to hear him talk, stuff like that. Mexico was fun to go there. Not very much of it, but. And then when we went, he wanted to go to Alaska fishing one time, so we tried that, and it was okay. It was not a place that I want to go back and see anymore. Went to Hawaii. That was really fun, and we're more akin to that, but Pappy did not like it very much. And where else did I go?
England?
Yeah, we went to England and France. Saw
The
the
Channel?
saw the tower.
Went in the Channel under
Oh
the
yeah, the
water.
tunnel. Yeah. So
New York?
New York. I don't remember New York very much either, for some reason. I've shut it out of my brain.
That's not good news.
It was too busy. Florida, we went there for a few minutes.
Do you have any family heirlooms?
Not really. Do I?
The dishes you talked about?
The what?
The dishes you talked about?
Well, Mom has had these little dishes, and one day when I was visiting, they were all stacked up there, and Mom, it looked like they were supposed to go somewhere, so I took them to my house because I knew they'd be okay, safe. And nobody's asked for them, and nobody has wondered where they were, so I still think they were supposed to go to my house. So, and they did. But that's as much heirlooms as I have. We weren't heirloom people, as far as I know. Maybe I have some now that I made. I don't know. That will turn into an heirloom, I doubt.
Do you, can you tell us of a serious illness or accident you've had in your life?
Well, obviously I'll reach to my newest one is where I fell and hit my head hard and broke my hip, and I don't like it at all. I remember once before I fell and I hurt something. And also, when I was a kid, I was in the, I want to say third grade, but I know it was more like the fourth, fifth, sixth. Anyhow, they had a big slide at school, had two bars that came down like that, and you put your legs over the bars, and I don't know how they ever got away with doing that, but and it was way tall as a house, and you'd get on and slide down. And when I got down there, I tripped and fell, and I cut my chin, and I have a big scar right under here that I got to go and get all sewed up, get a little sympathy for a couple of days. It's really nice. School treated me like I was important for a couple of days.
Can you think of a prayer that you may have had answered, or can you remember something like that?
A lot of them, but I can't put my finger on them right now. But Am I supposed to? Did I have one written down? Do I have one? No? Of any? Somebody else know when I had answered? I don't. I can't think of one, but I certainly have had a lot of them answered. I really have. And especially when I found out that you could get one answered.
Can you think of what challenges have you faced as an adult?
Being patient, with letting my kids do their thing to learn what they need to do it right.
Have you noticed changes in your life, like the technology, like what?
Oh my gosh. We
How
never
can you
had
describe
a
that?
I never had a CD. I never had a phone to carry around. Good honk. I was truly amazed when I went to my grandmother's house, and she had a phone sitting by the front door, and a phone in the back room, and we just barely had a phone in the front room. And I was always amazed that you could put two phones in the same house. Why would you? I never could figure that out when I was little. And now we have phones in our pockets. Just, you got to think about it, guys. It's amazing. It's just pure amazing that things like that are everywhere.
Well, cars.
Yeah, I know. Bikes, on your bike. And the things that people do on bikes nowadays, and scooters, travel the world. I just can't fly. I just remember how amazing it was when Uncle Jimmy would take us up in his plane in Mesa Airport. And not very long ago, I went with a couple of ladies out to the Thunderbird Air. Is it Thunderbird? What is it? Anyhow, out on the east side of town, and they have all the memorabilia from the war and everything, because that's where he was stationed some of the time. And oh my gosh, it's just so amazing, the things that have come from that. And I just remember one time when our plane broke its arm and broke his wing when it came down one day, and Daddy had to try to get it to work, and they couldn't get it to work, and so it took us a couple of weeks to be able to fix that plane. And I mean, just dumb little things like that come back to your memory when you see what things are doing now and what you used to do, and didn't dream you'd ever get to do that. Do these new things. And most of them I haven't done. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that there's stuff out there that my kids will do and their kids will do that. Why? And how people dreamed it up. Just
What about like society? Is there do you see a difference in society from when you were younger to?
Or even like local communities, like were they more friendly back then? Or
well, you know,
being
I grew up on Southern Avenue, and when I started working for Daddy, and then I would go down 16th Street. I would pass Broadway and a couple other streets, but anyhow, right in there was the Black people community, and then I would just go through, and then I'd go through the river and everything. And now there's a bridge over the river, and then you went down, and if we were having a flood, you didn't go down that way. You just, and I don't remember what we did do, but I do know that. And those people at Broadway would come to Daddy's store to get their prescriptions and stuff, and they were so happy to have that drugstore there then, and they were so friendly. Acted like just us, they weren't different than us. They were just different color. And then as I got older and all this other stuff started coming out about Black people and white people and stuff like that, and I had 2 or 3 friends that owned Yee Market. Their parents owned the Yee Market, and they were Chinese, and you never talked about that. You never did. We never did. They were never different than us. They were just different people and different families. It's just never been anything I could ever just really get comfortable with. So I don't understand. But my dad had so many good friends. He was really good friends with Willie Mays. Who knows why? But it's just funny how it didn't ever, we never tried to gather anything, Daddy had a whole bunch of memories, but I didn't. But so there were other people too, but I'm just saying that one came to mind right now. But
You're pretty patriotic. What do you think about patriotism now?
just,
Re-ask your question.
You're pretty patriotic. What do you think about patriotism now?
well, I think people have forgotten that this country was started by a man in supposedly a man in a little boat rowing up to it. Now, I don't know what the real story was about that, but I do know that the things and the stories that I grew up with about the world, and lived through the Second World War and saw those soldiers come home, and knew some of the ones whose dads didn't come home, their kids and stuff. I don't want to talk. It just makes me tender all over, and that red, white, and blue is important to me. And I have to have a lot of it around me. So that's what.
Perfect. Can you tell us your address now?
5336 East Charter Oak Road, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85254.
Perfect. If I asked you, can you remember the story of going to school with blue hair and then going back with green?
It wasn't to school. I went to the Riverside Ballroom. We could go there and dance when we were in high school on Saturday. And my girlfriend Norma and I dyed our hair blue one night. And we were real popular that night. And we danced every dance practically, but we almost always did anyway. We were cute. And then the next week we returned and we had green hair the next year. The next weekend. And then the next week we went in our regular hair, and that's the week that I wrecked my dad's car.
Want any more?
So you've been a member of the church your whole life?
I have, not active my whole life. Some maybe 2 years in California. I've always been a little bit shy of doing new things, and going to a new ward in a new town and nobody in the world that I knew there also. It was very hard for me to do that. And then Toby was born, and I had just met Dot Maydern, who is probably my most close friend other than family. And she had a new baby also a little earlier than that. Anyhow, so one day she came over, and my daughter, Jan, one of my sisters gave me this big gray buggy, and the church was only 2 blocks away. So I pushed that baby to church, and she was the most popular person in church that day. And so was I, and so were the other 2 kids, because we were brand new. And then from then on, it was fun to be a Mormon again, and fun to be active. So
I didn't ask you, can you remember, what's your favorite memory of your children? Beach, maybe the beach?
well, my favorite memory of the beach is Dot Maydern. Her husband had some friends who were going to camp at the beach, and so she said, "Do you want to go with us?" And so you had to go down to Sears to get a ticket to go for 7 days. And so I went down with $50, which is what you had to have. I was amazed that I had $50. And we had to go down at 6 in the morning and stand in line until they opened. And I was third in line. And so I bought a reservation, and Pappy said, "What in the heck?" He said, "Really, what in the hell are you doing? Nobody's going to have any fun. It's just sandy and dirty out there, Sue." But we went out anyway, and we borrowed stuff from our neighbors. We borrowed that they offered us. We borrowed stuff. We bought stuff new until we had to buy our tickets in January. That was really what was scary for him. And we went out, and we have never, and that was 53 years ago, right? 53 years ago, we've been going to the beach for camping in July and sometime August, huh? And nobody ever talks of stopping, so I guess we're going to still do it. I didn't get to go last year. I went, but I didn't go down to the beach because of my hip. But maybe I'll do better this year.
Do you want to share your testimony or any final thoughts? Words of wisdom?
Word of wisdom, do what you know is right and not try to mess around with it. There's no sense in it. You can't win anyway. You can always be behind if you don't do the right thing. And I believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints is the truest thing on the earth, and I know that if you live those commandments, you will always turn out all right, and things will always go your way, even if it's not your way yet. And I say these things humbly in Jesus' name, amen.